All right, I'll entertain a motion to come out of executive session.
Make a motion to exit executive session.
Motion by Commissioner Stowers, seconded by Commissioner Bruce. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote. And that is approved 4-0 to come out of executive session. All right, so at this time, we'll call a meeting to order for the Dawson County Board of Commissioners voting session. Today is Thursday, December the 4th, 2025. Appreciate everybody that's with us in attendance as well as those that are with us online. Let the record show that all 5 commissioners are present in the roll call. Ask everyone to please stand for brief invocation and pledge. If you would bow your heads, please. Our dear gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day, Lord, and we ask for guidance to carry out the business of this county. Anything that we accomplish, we'll give you the honor and glory in Christ's name. We do ask and pray. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. Are there any announcements on the board? Any announcements? Hearing none, I'll move on to approval of minutes. First up, we have the minutes of the work session held on November 20th, 2025. Any additions or deletions? Motions.
Motion to approve is presented.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Stowers, seconded by Commissioner Bruce. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote. And those are approved 4-0. Next up, we have the minutes of the voting session held on November 20th, 2025. Any additions or deletions? Motions.
Motion to approve is presented.
Motion by Commissioner Stowers, second by Commissioner Turkett. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote. And that is approved 4-0. Next up, we have the approval of the agenda. Don't have any changes to the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve is presented.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Stowers, seconded by Commissioner Bruce. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote. And the agenda is approved 4-0. No one signed up for public comment in this section?
No, sir.
We move on to consent agenda. Ratification of acceptance Georgia Opioid Crisis Abatement Trust Grant Award for Treatment Services, $5,400 with no county match. A motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion to approve consent agenda.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Stowers, seconded by Commissioner Bruce. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote. And the consent agenda is approved 4-0. We move on to zoning. We go over the rules for zoning. Planning director present the application and the recommendation to the planning commission. Then we'll hear from the applicant. Then I'll open the hearing. We'll hear from those that are in favor of the application. We'll hear from those who are opposed to the application. Each person wishing to speak will be allotted 3 minutes per our zoning guidelines, and anyone who speaks will need to sign in and give us your name and address, and anyone who has donated $250 or more to any candidate will need to fill out a form stating so. So, Richard, I'll let you read it.
I'm going to stop for just a minute. I'm going to recuse myself
Okay.
from this point. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, this is Appeal 11-2025-00129. Kareem Hawthorne submitted an application requesting an appeal of a Planning Commission denial to the Board of Commissioners. On October 21st, Planning Commission voted to deny application VA 25-15 regarding property at 494 River Overlook Road, parcel LO2 033. Planning Commission, after holding a public hearing, denied application by Mr. Hawthorne to allow an accessory dwelling unit or guest quarters in the RPC, Residential Planned Community Zoning District, which Planning Commission found to be in conflict with the intent and standards of the Land Use and Development Code of Dawson County. The applicant has now requested an appeal of this denial. This goes back to June. County staff received a citizen concern message asking if staff would review the status of the property, including the pool and the accessory building, to check on whether or not the 2020 permitted projects had been completed. Staff found that the permits for the pool and accessory building had expired without being issued a certificate of occupancy or certificate of completion. Subsequently, the applicant obtained an approved final inspection and certificate of completion for the pool. The applicants also spoke with zoning staff about the situation. Zoning staff informed the applicants verbally and in writing that per County Code Chapter 121, the RPC zoning district does not allow an accessory structure to be used as a secondary residence. Staff gave the applicants the option of returning the land to its previous status of being lots 13 and 14, which would result in one residence per lot. Later that summer, the applicant informed staff that he proposed to be heard by the Planning Commission based on previous information from the 2020 permitting of the structure as a pool house. The applicant applied to have the accessory structure classified as a residence. In October, county staff received numerous inquiries and opposition emails for the request. In addition, the Chestatee Community Association submitted an opposition letter to the Planning Commission. On October 21st, Planning Commission heard the request. Commissioner Hornsby asked if anyone was currently living in the structure. Mr. Hawthorne stated that his in-laws were currently living in the structure. Chairman Hamby asked about the use of the property. I confirmed that the use of a structure as an accessory dwelling unit in the RPC zoning district was not allowed. Chairman Hamby noted that the intent and standards of the county code for the RPC district did not allow for residential use of an accessory structure. Commissioner Maloney also stated that the Planning Commission needed to follow the RPC district standards and not allow the structure to be used as a residence. Commissioner Hornsby stated that the family has other options, including returning the property to lots 13 and 14, in which there could be one residence per lot. Planning Commission voted to deny the request. On October 31st, the applicant submitted paperwork requesting that the decision be appealed to the BOC. The applicant obtained a CO for the accessory building, noting on the CO that the structure is an accessory structure not to be used as a dwelling unit. The county attorney's office has reviewed the matter and has recommended that the BOC affirm the Planning Commission decision based on the County Code RPC zoning district standards of Chapter 121. If the board chooses to make a decision, the vote will be either to affirm or overturn the October 21 decision of the Planning Commission.
Questions for Richard?
I have a quick question. On if Mr. and Ms. Hawthorne were to go and split back into two parcels, I know right now it's one driveway. Will they have to get two driveway permits and split that?
No, not necessarily.
Okay.
It could be a recorded easement if, for example, they split into two and then sold off one of the lots, and let's say it was the Smith family now owning that second property. There could be a recorded easement so that the Smith family could
Has
always
access to
get
that
through the Hawthorne family land.
Okay. Okay.
Other questions? Thanks, Richard.
Sorry, I have one more question.
Go ahead.
Sorry. Back when the Hawthorns applied, just so that I understand, I know you have talked about this, but I am still a little confused. So back when they applied for a permit to build the structure, 2020 or 2021?
It appears that the initial application was approximately towards the end of 2019, and then in 2020, the permit was issued.
Okay, and we had multiple people on staff at the time that are no longer here that signed off on it being good to be built in that zoning.
We did. We have two things going on. On the one hand, the building permit in writing was described by the applicant as a pool house. On the other hand, in 2020, there were two different types of residential permits. There was a residential permit for a house, and then there was a residential permit for an accessory building. And this project was permitted as residential other,
Okay.
like an accessory building.
Okay. And you can't live in those?
An accessory building, no.
Okay. I don't know. That's why I'm asking. Okay.
Is there anything that would prevent him from splitting into this Mr. Hawthorne from splitting into the lot 13 and 14 currently?
So what you've got in your packet is from the county government perspective, because I don't get into the private side of things that I may or may not be aware of, but from the public side, in the packet is the 1998 subdivision recorded plat of lots 13 and 14. And then at the very end of 2019, early 2020, the Hawthorne family hired a surveyor to prepare a lot combination survey to take lots 13 and 14 and make them one property. And you'll see on that what was recorded in, I believe, January 2020. In the middle of the property, you'll see a very faint line, and that very faint line is where the property line was. And so on a basic level, they could call back up that same company. Hopefully they're still in business, 5 years later, and ask them to call up that project number, put back in that line in the middle, and have that recorded. So fairly straightforward.
Okay. They've been built, I think, now for 5 years. I don't know when it was finished, but what brought this back up, that it was like, what brought this to our attention that it was not in the correct zoning 5 years later?
Sure. In June of this year, county staff received a citizen concern message asking if staff would review the status of the property, the use of the property, the project status of inspections and CO or certificate of completion of the pool and accessory building.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions? Good. Thank you, Richard. Is the applicant present? Come on up.
Good evening. Thank you guys for hearing us out this evening. I don't know if you want to open up with questions that you guys may have of me, or do you want me to
Go ahead and tell
just
us
go
what
through?
you'd like to do.
Okay, so we've been working to solve this issue for quite a while with the community director, Richard, and his team, and we just haven't been able to come to something reasonable. So I'll just rewind and we'll just go through the chronology of how we ended up here. So we owned our home in Chestatee, which was originally on lot 14. We had a house fire. Well, I'll back up. We owned lot 14. 2019, we purchased that home in probably July of that year, June and July. We knew we would want to have a pool. We didn't have space for a pool. There was a vacant lot next door, so we bought that lot so we could have a pool. So we did all of this, and then we had a home fire. Our main home burnt all the way down, and nothing was left. So we had to rebuild. So prior to rebuilding, there's a process you have to go through in Chestatee. Every single thing has to be approved. And at that time, there was only one person who was in charge of approval, who was Brian Ferris, who was the head of, he's a developer, and he's also the only person that we needed to get permission from to do whatever our build was. So that was approved with Brian directly. He approved our building plans, design specs. They actually had to qualify our builder who was going to do the work, and also the intent of use of all of our plans. So we had a main home, a pool, and a pool house. And that's the topic that we're here to discuss now. And I think I sent it in to Richard so you guys would have a visual of what we're talking about exactly. So if you can look, it's 3,800 square feet. It's 4 bathrooms, 2 bedrooms, 2 kitchens, split on 2 levels. So that's the design of it, and there's some actual pictures in there as well. So when we applied for this, I just want to be very clear that this is not a temporary structure. This is not a shed. This is not a garage. This is not a camper or a trailer. This is a full-size house, which is actually larger than most other homes in Chestatee. This is a home, and that's what it was designed for. That's why we submitted for it, and that's what we applied for. So then I'll move forward, and we'll go into the date. So we applied for all of this. So once we received permission from Chestatee, I say Chestatee because that's the community. We then took that packet once it was all approved and we knew we can move forward with our construction. Then we submitted those plans to the county. We submitted those plans and the permit was issued on May 26th of 2020. And we did not do any construction prior to receiving permits, which gave us permission to build. And that the permit says residential permit. Now, I do know Richard mentioned that in 2020, things were different and things have changed now. But when we submitted our packet and what we received, at no point of the application process or there was no questioning, there was no further discussion of, hey, what is this going to be used for? This is not allowed. You can't have a second structure. That was just never an argument that we had. There was no pushback, and that permit was issued. We have spent over $500,000 building that structure out, and 5 years later, we are now being told that we can't have that structure. It's a house. It's for our in-laws. They're both of my in-laws and my parents. Whenever they're here, that's where they live, and that was a plan for it, so they can be close to their grandchildren, and we could all live together. And that is the sole use of the pool house. And I know there's been also talk about it being a pool house. Well, it could have been called main house, right? On the permit, if I wrote main house, it would have just been called main house, but we labeled it pool house because it's closer to the pool. So I don't think the naming of it being pool house changes what it was intended to be used for. And in the plans, it clearly outlines bedroom 1, bedroom 2, kitchen. It has a 3-car garage. So this is not a temporary structure. It's not something that we were unaware of going into it. And we've had conversations with Richard and his team. Is Keith Wilson? Is it Keith Wilson or Kevin? Yes. Keith is the head of inspections, I believe, as well. And I've worked with Keith. It's 5 years later. So this is something that they've also been aware of. And there's been a lot of discrepancies and inconsistencies on the county's team, on the county side, as far as how inspections were carried out, what prevented us from having a CO earlier, and why 5 years later we're in this situation. And I did hear Richard mention that you asked, why did this come up 5 years later? And he said it was a citizen concern that was submitted to him. Previously, he stated that that was Josh Nason, who is the president of our POA, who submitted that. I was never told that it was a random citizen at large. He specifically told me it was Josh Nason, and he is the president of the POA now. And prior to our original meeting in October, there were no complaints that we were aware of. We never received any violations or complaints
ask you a
from
question.
Chestatee.
Let me ask you a question right here.
Mhm.
All right, so throughout this process,
Yes.
all right, so when they went out to inspect or investigate,
Yep.
there was no CO for the pool, there was no CO for the structure,
Mhm.
and this is a 5-year process.
Yep.
Did you call for COs? Did you
Yep.
come back? What happened?
Yeah. So this is a good question, and I'm glad you asked. So the main dwelling was CO'd back in 2022. The pool should have been CO'd and wasn't, and it was a series of inconsistencies with the county and the inspectors coming out. And we would have an inspector come out, and they would say, "Okay, we need this," and we would do that. And then the next time they come back, they say, "Oh, we need this," and we would do that. And then someone retired, and then they came back and they said, "Oh, now we need this." So this went back and forth for a while, and we worked with Keith, and I was literally saying like, hey, can we just get an outside? Because all of our inspections that were conducted by the county, we also hired an independent engineering firm to also verify that whatever was confirmed was safe because our family needs to live there. So the second part, and our pool is CO'd. That is done. We have no violations. We didn't have to pay any fees. That's done. We worked it out, and it was acknowledgement that there were inconsistencies on the inspections. Moving on to the pool house, our pool house should have been certified back when our main house was certified. Our pool house was not CO'd because the building inspection team, they were inspecting the building as if it should have been completed, like top, bottom. You have an unfinished basement. So the lower level is an unfinished basement. But every time when they came out, they were inspecting as if it was to be a finished project. And we've had Tom and Jerry. Those are the two inspectors that I worked with for years now. And I would call Keith and say, "Hey, man, great guys, but there's inconsistencies, and we're not being inspected on the actual thing that we should be inspected on." So now we have CO'd. We have done nothing differently than what we were needed to do to be CO'd 2 years ago. I think recently we were asked to add drip edge on our exterior. And even that in itself was something that had never come up previously in the last 5 years. But we went ahead and did it. And now 2 weeks ago, we were issued a CO. So every single thing on our property has certificate of occupancy. Everything is above board. Everything is passed. And there's no issues. However, we would have been CO'd 2 years ago, and this would be a non-factor. Furthermore, if we were inspected correctly, accurately, and by the county rule, we would have never had a citizen concern 5 years later because it would have been nothing to concern yourself about. It's CO'd, they live there, and you can carry on your.
I have a quick question for Richard. Why are we able to CO something that shouldn't be there to begin with? So if y'all are saying this house shouldn't be there because it's in the wrong zoning, how are we able to CO it and make it official without it being, that doesn't make sense to me.
Accessory
So a variety of
I mean, I understand
structures
that.
can receive either certificate of completion or certificate of occupancy. Certificate of completion is a pool is a great example.
Okay.
Certificate of occupancy can be any structure that has full services. We do have people who, and more power to them. That's great. That they've got significant means where maybe they have a house, but they want a second structure that's going to be 2,000, 5,000 square feet, and they want it to be a party barn, a hangout, a woodworking hobby shop, whatever. They just tell us it's a personal use accessory building, and it's not a guest house, it's not an accessory dwelling unit, but it is a personal use building. It's not commercial use, it's not residential everyday living, but it may have all the services. We can permit that as an accessory building, and it's inspected and then obtains a certificate of occupancy as a accessory building, but not as a residence.
So they received a CO on this, what they call a residence, but we CO'd it as a accessory building.
Yes,
Okay.
And
it does.
It does.
On the CO.
so I also want to point that out, and I highlighted that in the packet we sent in. So that is highlighted on the CO now, but it's almost given as if it was backdated to 2020 when it was issued. So I just want to be very clear that there was no point in time where this was mentioned or said to be an accessory building, a hobby building, a barn. It's a full house, and it has everything that is required also by Chestatee to be a house. So you couldn't build this in Chestatee if it didn't meet the minimum requirements of a house, a dwelling where people sleep every night. And I do want to talk to the point, and I knew a couple of you guys had the question, well, why can't he just split it and then this would be a non-factor? Well, one, it's not as simple as just saying, hey, again, imagine if you have a home, you own a home, and the county says, hey, 5 years ago, the person who was on staff made a mistake. So we know you built your house here, but we're going to have to ask you to cut it in half and live on this side. The other side, you cannot live in on that side. That would be completely ridiculous, right? This is no different. Yes, it's two different structures, but what you're asking us to do is to do something that we were approved to do by a member of the county. And when an error is made by a person on the staff, that doesn't fall back onto the citizen. It should not. And furthermore, legally, you have a bank, right? You have lien holders, you have financing. You can't tell your bank, hey, we know we financed this entire property, but the county now wants me to throw $700,000 of it off of this property, which is no longer a part of your loan, and act like it's not a big deal. It's not. You can't do that. And again, we didn't break ground on this project until we had permission and paperwork was in.
How many, quick question.
Yeah.
Number one, I think the law does provide for counties and government entities to correct issues that happen in the past. So I think the law does support our ability to correct things. If something happened inadvertently, then we do have the ability to properly correct that. How many impact fees did you pay when you did this?
Impact fees?
Correct. Because there's an impact fee that is required for a structure, dwelling structure. How many impact fees did you pay when you built the house?
Okay, so just to clarify, and I'll answer the question. What is an impact fee? So I'm clear on what I'm answering. I don't understand what an impact fee is.
Richard, do you have that info on what he paid in impact fees?
I don't have it right in front of me.
Well, what is the impact fee?
Just because in the sense of generally when
Hold on,
somebody
Kareem, and we'll explain.
on a vacant lot, they have property zoned, single family residential like this, and they want to build a house. So when they get a permit for a house, their main residence, they pay an impact fee that is over and above normal county building permit fees because Dawson County has had fast growth and we're trying to improve infrastructure and public safety and things like that. But it's normally for a house and would not be for a pool or an accessory building. So I don't have the exact information, so I can't tell you with 100% certainty if they paid one or two.
Two, okay.
My suspicion is one.
Right.
For the main house.
Is that a land disturbance
for
fee?
sure in the
Okay.
no, sir.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean my suspicion is for sure the first permit for the main house in 2020 they would have paid impact fees. For the second, because it was a different classification, it was called residential other, like an accessory building. My suspicion is they probably did not.
It was the way it was described. I mean, it sounds like it comes down to the way that it was described to staff, because if you're building two separate structures that are capable to be lived in, you, in theory, should pay two separate impact fees for those two separate houses, correct?
Yes.
If it's communicated that they're two separate structures and they're both to be lived in. So it sounds like it was communicated that somewhere, and I don't know where it went wrong, I'm not rehashing that, but at some point it was communicated it's a house and an accessory building. And so potentially one impact fee was paid, I would think.
The struggle I'm having is that and I agree with you. The struggle I'm having is like, how do you look at the plans for this and how do you go in it and inspect it and it be misconstrued that it's an accessory? Like, it's very much a home. And so that's the part that I'm struggling with from our side. The county side is that I'm like, I understand, like, if we were just going based on like, hey, they're building an accessory. Okay, cool. If you never lay eyes on it, you never look at the plans, you never walk inside of it. I get where that can be confused. But they came and inspected it multiple times, and they have to look at the plans to even be able to do anything. So I that's the part I'm just like.
But I still think over all of these applications, I mean, it continuously says pool house and residential building other.
And I agree.
I'm not denying that.
I'm saying on both sides, like, yeah, I see that. But I mean, for me, that's more of the like, should the citizen be educated on what that stuff means when they're building? Probably. But should our staff be 100% educated on that? Absolutely. And that's where I'm having the like, I get that I agree with planning where we should follow, our standards and our ordinance and stuff like that, and our zoning and all those things. But I'm also like, yes, it states pool house, but we had inspectors come in and sign off on it. It clearly has bedrooms, it has bathrooms, it has a 3-car garage. Like, it's a home. We
Mr.
can name.
Chairman?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Excuse me. No, I just wanted to remind the board that this was advertised as a public hearing. So once the applicant has finished his presentation, before you completely engage in deliberation and making a decision, we need to make sure there's no one else here to speak
Sure.
on the public hearing.
Richard,
So-
just one point of clarity. I know we've had some revisions to our land use ordinances over the last couple of years, but I'm not familiar with us have changing the allowance of a accessory dwelling or accessory structure as a dwelling in the RPC. Is that correct?
It's correct that in 2019, when the application was first submitted and then reviewed at the end of 2019 and early 2020, throughout that process, 2019 and 2020, just as today, this zoning district is the planned community, RPC. And then and now, a second residence, an accessory dwelling unit, a caretaker residence was not allowed. So
Okay.
that's been consistent.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, so just trying to make sure I give you guys all the information I think is relevant. And again, I guess one of the biggest things, like you said, or has been mentioned, as a citizen, it is 100% not known, and we don't have to know all of the codes and all of the rules, but we do know when we submit an application to a county official and we're asking them to vet this and give us a designation for it. And I do want to go back to, again, it says pool house, but if I had named it side house or back house or top house or main house, it doesn't change what you're looking at on the paper. So the name, what's that?
But we
No,
should
it-
have
it-
said,
if
we
it was-
should have said, hey, this says pool house. I don't know when this got misconstrued, but this is not like, even when they did the foundation, even when they did the, okay, I'm so not a builder, but like the, the walls, what are those called? I'm just totally drawing a blank. Framing. Thank you, Angie. When they did the framing, you can see that it's being framed for multiple, I mean, they saw the plans. The county should have caught that. And I think Richard said that 4 different people signed off on it. We had multiple inspectors go and check this. So I'm like, again, I do feel like we have to be consistent. I think we have to follow our stuff. But when you're asking somebody to change something that's already there completely, and we as the staff are supposed to know those rules, and our citizens are supposed to trust us to know those rules. And if we don't, we need to figure them out before we go signing off on plans. We should have said, hey, a pool house isn't allowed, so you can't do that. I keep seeing this named as pool house. We can't do this. This needs to either be a second home and you're not in the right zoning for that, but we didn't direct them in any kind of way.
Now, a pool house would have been acceptable.
Well, but it clearly wasn't a pool house is my point.
Well, I will disagree with you on that, because the inspector is looking at a vacant structure when they go and look at that. It could have had 9 rooms in it. I don't know if they're going to be bedrooms. I'm an inspector that's looking at the building. Does the power work? Does the water work? Does all the stuff that I normally look at work? And, as Richard has said before, I mean, they could be fixing this thing for any number of things other than a residence. I mean, it'll have rooms in it all over the place. I mean,
Well, it has a
they
3-car
probably didn't
garage.
inspect it when it had beds and stuff.
I think Richard and Keith Wilson, when we sat down with them, my wife and I, here to discuss all of this, they themselves acknowledged that there was an error on their part, on the county's part. He acknowledged that. And the permit was issued by Angie Chester, who I know is no longer here as a county member, which I was informed. Really nice lady. And the description was always that it was going to be a home. And the reason we did appeal, and when we went to the first community hearing, the appeal, it was more so they felt like it should be heard here They didn't want to. They wanted it to come here, not so much that it didn't make sense. Additionally, this home being in Chestatee, which is we're not being asked to tear it down. We're not being asked to, it's one address. It's one address. So the idea that okay, it can be split. I went over some of the reasons why that is not necessarily like doable legally, and we get into more legal things. Well, why is it like that? Why was it approved? And now what's the next step? So it doesn't change anything for the community with that building being there and being allowed for people to sleep in it full time versus sleeping in it part time. It changes nothing. It doesn't affect the community. It doesn't affect our neighbors. My neighbors that are there are all okay with our structure. And like I said, we've had no violations that were submitted to us by Chestatee. We have no violations at all for this being used for what it's being used for. So I am asking that this appeal be made specifically because an error did occur. And sometimes there is a way to fix an error, but the fixing this error would cause significant impact to my family, which we've invested $500,000 to have family altogether. So this is a very important item for us, to say the least.
Any other questions for the applicant? Thank you.
Okay. And
Actually, one question.
yeah,
Does Chestatee charge an HOA per house?
I'm glad you asked that. So yes, Chestatee, we own 3 lots in Chestatee. I own 13, 14, and 15. We purchased 14. We had a home fire. We had already bought the second lot to combine. After we made that purchase, Chestatee then said, no one else can do what you did, and we're going to charge fees for each lot that you own to the HOA. So we pay double HOA fees to have this. And I did read an email from our Chestatee president, POA, that said, even if we did divide that lot like you guys are suggesting, they will charge us to another HOA fee for that structure, which
So you're only paying one HOA for this particular lot.
We pay one.
You're paying one, even
pay-
though it's 2 dwellings.
yes, we pay one because it's one address, and that was allowed and confirmed by Brian, who's the ARC and the developer of the neighborhood. So he told us, you can do this. You need to combine your lot prior to your closing. And that was granted and that was allowed.
From an HOA perspective, which doesn't really have any bearing on what our decisions are, but
Mhm.
an HOA is there to, the fee is there to support the number of residents that live in there, I guess. And I'm just thinking, since you have 2 separate residential units, 2 separate houses,
Mhm.
it seems you have your cake and eat it too, because you're only paying
Well,
for one
yeah.
one family, whereas if you're truly honest with yourself, you have 2 separate
Yeah.
family units that are kind of, even though you're related, but you have 2 separate family units. So that's
Well,
contradictory to.
I think to evaluate that and to answer that, one, it's allowed. We didn't break any rules, and the developer of the community allowed that to happen. Secondly, I have a vacant lot right next to our main house that's completely empty.
Yeah, you're paying
There's
for that one.
nothing there. There's no one that's using the pool, no one driving on the road, no one using the lights, no one going to the cookouts in the park, and we pay a full HOA price for that. So I'm not having my cake and eat it too. I'm actually making whole on that. And additionally,
Well, in theory, you could build another house on that one, correct?
you can build anything.
Right.
But what I'm saying, like in this moment, there's nothing there.
Sure.
So I'm not doubling down. And again, I would just say that if I did something that was allowed and approved, that's really a moot point. It's allowed and approved, and I didn't do anything without approval.
I got you. Okay.
Yeah. And again, I saw a Chestatee letter that came in, and I sent a response. and there was a section in there, section 6, or I think it's line item 6, section 33, that specifically says, unless approved in writing by the ARC, and we were approved in writing by the ARC to do what we did, and the county also approved what we did and is labeled as a residential structure on our permit. Had it not said residential structure and it said accessory or temporary structure, we would have known, hey, if it's residential, literally means a residence. And in 2020, residential meant residential like it means in 2025. So that's my final point. I hope you guys have all your questions answered, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, so at this time, I'll open up this hearing. Is there anyone here to speak in favor of the application? Anyone here to speak in favor of the application? Anyone here to speak in opposition to the application? Come on up. Please sign in, give us your name and your address, and then you will have 3 minutes. Well, you'll
My
actually,
name is Olivia Coughlin.
okay,
I am the Vice President of the POA,
okay.
Chastity, and I'm here to speak on behalf of the board. My address is 28 Knollwood Court, and I live in Chastity, Dawsonville. Okay. I think there's some significant misunderstandings here. So I'm hoping to try to go through this and clarify the position of the board. I'm here representing the board, and I'm also representing a number of, I think there were some other people that had sent in some statements regarding this. The POA has a covenant, and I think the covenant regarding this structure is being misunderstood. It's very clear that it says no, there's no structures of any temporary nature that are allowed to be built in Chastity. That's true. But there's also part of the covenant that says no trailer, camper, shack, tent, garage, barn, or other structure, maybe not temporary structure, just other structure, may be used as a residence, either temporarily or permanently provided. Okay. We have several homes in Chastity that have accessory dwellings. We have several homes that have pool houses. We have several homes that have detached garages. Those detached garages, in some cases, have a kitchen, bedrooms upstairs, and those are used as guest houses, temporary for the family and the guests of the family that own the property. We have 12 or more residents who have purchased more than one lot and have consolidated that lot into a single family compound, complete with a pool house or a detached garage or extra accessory buildings. The issue here is that our covenants are based on the RPC code. Each of these residences are single family homes. We do have people who have in-law suites in their single family home. They may have it attached to the single family home. They may have it as a lower level of the single family home. So we do have many people who have who have parents or whatever that are living with them.
How much time did the applicant use?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. Is there anyone, let me ask you, before you go on, let me stop you for a minute. Is anyone else here to speak in opposition to the application? Anyone? All right, I'll grant you some more time due to the fact that the applicant had so much time. Go ahead.
we support the RPC code. The POA supports that. It's part of our covenants. It's the way our covenants are set up. We're not opposed to a pool house. And even though this pool house, as you brought up, has a kitchen and bedrooms, we would never have thought it was going to be a separate permanent residence, because it could be used for guests. It could be used for people who are using the pool. You change your clothes, you want to watch TV, you're having a pool party. It's an accessory structure. And we have many, many houses in Chestatee that have accessory structures. What we are opposed to is changing the underlying RPC code and changing this into separate residential structures, because that's not what they are. They should be, what we should have is a main house where the people live, and any auxiliary housing is used for guests or other uses.
Can I ask a
That's what-
question? Is the person that lives in the other house, in-laws, is it in their name? Are these two completely separate, or do y'all own the whole thing? You own the whole thing?
Yeah, we own the whole thing.
Okay, so, because I'm just having a hard time wrapping my head around the fact that there's guest houses where people stay. The only difference is they stay temporarily versus permanently, right?
Do we define temporary stay versus permanent stay?
Is that how we're defining things? Because it's, if they're in-laws, I think a couple of them visit, but they don't stay there permanently, but another one stays there for the most part permanently, but you own both structures. It's not like it's two separate residences as far as two separate owners with two separate families there. It's y'all own the whole thing and you allow your in-laws to live there. Okay, so we're defining it as temporary and full-time. Is that how we're defining? I'm asking her, I'm sorry.
I'm defining it as
Because that's the only difference I'm seeing.
family or not family.
Well, they are family though.
But we're not basically, I mean, if Mr. Hawthorne had maybe come to the board instead of filing a variance, we may have been able to work with the plan commission, with the planning department on this. What we're concerned about is the future when Mr. Hawthorne leaves. As you know, the property
Sure.
is up for sale. And what happens with the secondary structure? Does it become a rental unit? Does it become something else?
But that's not allowed through the POA, correct?
It shouldn't be. But what this was a pool house. It was labeled as a pool house. We in the POA do not review the plans.
But the ARC person does, correct?
Our person does, but having a bedroom in it or having a kitchen in it is not unusual. We have other pool houses.
So you'll have other
detached
two-story
garages.
with 3 garages and multiple bedrooms and multiple kitchens. Y'all have that?
We do. We do.
Okay.
There are others.
Richard, quick question. Under the PD zoning, do we differentiate between permanent? Like what she's saying, they're okay with temporarily people staying in these accessory buildings, but I think our code says you can't stay in an accessory building. You can't live, whether it's for a day or whether it's for 5 years. Is there a differentiation?
So the county code talks about everyday living. So let's say, for example, that, because I'm going to give a different example, and this, I'm not even going to, name an address. Let's say it was just some other place in the the west part of the county, and somebody had 5 acres, and they had a nice house, and then they got a permit from the county for a building, a personal use accessory building with all services. And it had, one room that was bigger than another. And it was a great room. And it had a couple of giant TVs and a couple of mega sofas and stuff like that. And the family's living in the house. And one weekend, some folks come over. They could be family, they could be friends, and they crash on the sofa on Friday night, or Friday night and Saturday night. That's not everyday living.
Right.
Everyday living
It's
is
different.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. There's people multiple days where the more evidence there is of everyday living, then the more possible suspicion of not being in line with the single-family residential district. That's what this all comes down to. This is this property is a contributing property. Everything, every structure now has been fully inspected and obtained either certificate of occupancy or certificate of completion. So this is a positive property for the community. And at the same time, it and every other property within Chestatee is zoned single-family residential, RPC, residential planned community. And in that zoning district, not just in Chestatee, but countywide, it just doesn't allow for an accessory dwelling unit for a secondary residence for everyday living.
Okay, just to clarify, so let's say his parents moved into the main house with them, and this guest house was only now used for when her parents came into town. That's allowable per POA and the zoning?
Per public government and the zoning, that structure, yes, has a certificate of occupancy as an accessory building, noting that the structure is as an accessory structure, not to be used as a dwelling unit. So yes, if somebody's not living there on an everyday basis,
Then it's
an
okay.
accessory building, it's allowed by zoning.
Okay, thank you.
Excuse me, am I allowed to speak?
Not right now.
Okay.
And I know that it came up that Josh Nason, who is the president of the POA, he couldn't be here tonight, had asked about the certificate of occupancy. And one of the reasons that has come up is this process of rebuilding this area has taken a long time. And we, as the POA, wanted to assure ourselves that everything has been inspected and that, you know, what we see as a residence is done. Because as Mr. Hawthorne will attest, there were many times when we talked to Mr. Hawthorne about various things and everything was still under construction. So it took many years to complete this structure. And that's why we asked the question about having it inspected, so that we are wanting to know the status of the property, so that we would know as a POA how we should deal with it. But we do have many, as I said, we have at least 12, if not more, consolidated lots. Those people have consolidated their lots within the county. They pay one set of dues, just like Mr. Hawthorne does. But that property is for the use of their family. And any auxiliary buildings like the detached garages with the bedrooms and the kitchenettes or the pool houses or whatever are used as an accessory use. They're not permanent residents. And the board's concern is to change the designation for this one parcel of land when we have 480 homes that are all single-family RPC code. Makes no sense to us. We think that it should stay under the current zoning that it has and be utilized the way some of these other properties are utilized.
Yeah.
A pool house to us was not a permanent residence or a separate residence.
And I hear, Alexa, your feedback on that. Staff should have realized it's big enough to be a house, but where I'm at, I think is. And do we need to wait until we go into discussion to get?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll wait for that. Yeah,
Do you have
I'll
any
wait for that. Yeah.
Any more questions?
Yeah.
No, I'm from her.
I don't have any right now.
No. Thank you. All right, I'll give you one more minute. Come here. Yeah, time that. 1 minute.
Okay, so a couple of things just quickly. I've looked up the code. I've asked Richard. There is no designation that says a time frame for how many days can someone be a guest. That's not in the county book at all. There's no designation to can a person stay for a week or 9 months as a guest. Furthermore, if this house was labeled as guest home, would the POA think of it as a different use, or if it was named whatever? And I think to take the POA out of the discussion, because it's not really a HOA issue, it's the county that issued this. Everything was approved by the developer, and we did everything he needed. At the time of this, there was no POA in place. They didn't exist, and he didn't need to confer with anyone. So to say what was granted back then needed to go through them, it's just didn't need to happen. And if the POA was concerned, they could have reached out to us as a homeowner versus calling the county to reach out to us. So I'm just asking for you guys to consider all the
Okay.
things. And
Your
there's no
time's up.
other structure in
Your
Chestatee.
time's up. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
I have a question for the applicant when we get to that.
Okay. You can ask him. Go ahead.
So it was mentioned that it's for sale, and so I guess if it's for sale, what implication does that have for this? Because we're really dealing with the fact that it's not the structure itself, it's the way you're using the structure. So the structure could be massive and it could have 100 bedrooms in it, but the way you're using it as a permanent residence, I think, is what the issue is, not the actual structure itself or what makes up the structure. So if it's for sale, what implication? I mean, you say that you can't divide it now because it impacts, mortgages and things like that, and I understand that. But it's for sale, the situation potentially changes. You're arguing for your particular situation and what makes sense for the way you live today. We grant this, the next person could come in and they could have not their family living there. It could be anybody. So that's a question I have.
I think that's a good question. I'm glad you asked it. I don't know if this is on. So one, it changes absolutely nothing if I keep it or if I sell it. And the reason it doesn't change anything is it's already there. And now if whoever buys it, or if I leave it for my children and we decide not to sell it, the actual sale wouldn't change anything. Chestatee now has a POA in place, and you cannot do anything. You can't divide that lot. You can't build on that lot further. So, and if you are the new owner, right, and you move your family in and you move your best friend in because you guys are buddies and you want him to live close to you, that's not a violation of any rule, code, or law. So it wouldn't change how the community is ran. If it has 2 bedrooms now, it will have 2 bedrooms then. You can only sleep 2 people in a bedroom or 3 or whatever. So it doesn't change the footprint of the property. Our main home has 9 bedrooms. We only occupy 3 day to day. So I can move maybe 20 more people into my main house, and that's way less than what's at the pool house. So it's not like the implication changes. Well, if the next person buys the main house and they're a large family, the Brady Bunch, and they have 20 kids, there's nothing that the HOA or POA can say about how many people are here living under this residence. So the sale actually won't do anything. If anything, the POA now has way more control of the entire neighborhood. So again, there's no space to add on to this building. And anything you want to do in Chestatee, if you want to add a new sprinkler, a new fence, you have to ask these guys. So you can't do anything and this won't be a problem. It won't affect the neighborhood. And additionally, there are 0 properties in Chestatee that have a 2-story pool house with bathrooms, kitchens, and 3-car garage. There's 0.
Okay.
So I just want to make sure we're giving all the correct, accurate information. Secondly, there is
That's
no
the only
statement in
question I
the
had.
book about time frame.
That's good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. I'm going to ask you one more time. No one else here to speak in opposition. Seeing none, I'll close the hearing. What's the pleasure of the board?
I understand there was a mistake that was made, but it doesn't come down to the potential mistake. It doesn't come down to the structure. And I see what you're saying, that, anybody can look at this and think to me, that would be a house. But somebody in a 9-bedroom main house that is very nice, that could be used for anything. And it doesn't come down to what the structure is. It comes down to how it's being used. And that's the only decision that I think we legally have to determine is it being used on a temporary basis? And I think a resolution could be the current people that are living there, maybe they move into the other part of the house, and then the ones that are part-time, it sounds like that would be legally able to be done. So it was the people that permit, or the people that looked at it and approved it, they saw it as regardless of how big it is, they saw it as an accessory structure. It's being used as a permanent residence. And so if I just hang my hat on the way it's being used, I think that's the spirit of the ordinance. And so with that, I would make a motion we uphold the decision of the planning board.
Based on the RPC zoning standards.
Correct.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Gaines, seconded by Commissioner Stowers to affirm the decision of the Planning Commission. Any other discussion? Hearing none, please vote. All right, so I'll vote with the yeas, and that'll be 3-1 to uphold the Planning Commission. All right, so let's move on.
I have a question.
No, not right now.
Is there a time frame for temporary versus not temporary? Because if I need to tell my in-laws you have 2 weeks versus 1 week you can stay there, but this changes nothing. It's just a matter of semantics, but I want to have clarity before we leave today if possible.
We can follow up with you. Staff follow up with you.
All right, so move on to unfinished business. Consideration of resolution concerning COLAs and supplements for elected officials, tabled from November 20th, 2025.
I'll make a motion we table
Second.
Second, yeah.
COLA's discussion.
Table it till
Table it till our next meeting, which is
18th.
the 18th of December.
All right, so a motion to table the consideration of resolution concerning COLAs and supplements for elected officials till the 18th of December by Commissioner Gaines. You second it. Commissioner Bruce, second it. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote. And that's approved 4-0 to table. No one signed up for public comment in this section? And with that, we are adjourned. Thank you for your attendance.